Well, here we are back again, by the grace of God, not by the grace of me, because something wrong with technology is by guess or by God, and this one is by God, because I'm no good at it at all. But here we go, and for part two of our Mirador television presentation, which goes from 9:30. It was 9:32 when we came back to you. Apologies for that. It's from 9:30 till 10 o'clock, when Liza Page will be joining us for her points of view. The Liza Page story, if you like. Now, let's just dwell on the next half hour. First of all, what I want to do is to show you the newest program or offering, if you like, that we have for you, and we are now is twice a week having a very short vlog, as they're known, and which can be distributed far wider than we've been doing so far. And this is the second vlog, which we revealed in the news hour, the news half hour, a little while ago. So we'll play it again for you first, and for your viewing pleasure.
In the last episode, I spoke of a battle between the king and some of his barons. The king, Henry III, held the castle. Now, as you can see, the castle pokes up into the sky quite a bit. The Motter is a man-made hill. And as you can see, a few hours of overtime were put in to build this pile of dirt. From the top, you can see in every direction for miles. Almost impossible to creep up without being noticed. And there was a moat to cross as well. But it's called Castle Ditch Lane, the name reflecting its purpose all those years ago. The king, rather unsportingly, had more men on his side than the barons. But it seems he fell asleep at the switch, and on that meadow over there, Simon de Montfort drew up his troops and joined battle. Fighting was fierce. After all, they'd all been on their own tilting greens, preparing for such a showdown as this. The battle was short and sharp, and the barons put the royal troops to flight. And they showed no mercy. The priory had been used as a staging post by the king's men, and they now took refuge there. It's little wonder that tilting grounds became bowling greens, because despite all that training, the king's men panicked. Screams of terror from both monks and soldiers echoed around the priory. As burning arrows thudded into thatched roofs, setting the priory buildings afire, fighting spilled over to here, our beloved but bloody High Street. Soldiers were either massacred or crushed to death, as they tried to get across the bridge over the River Ouse. For the king, it was a complete disaster.
De Montfort, he split his armies up on the hills behind us in the Chalk Downs. He split his army into three forward not flanks, but bunches of men, you know, groups. And they would have been around 1,500 people in them. So a lot of people. So he had 1,500 people. Then he kept men back for himself. So his left flank went off to Barkham and met Prince Edward, and they went off to Barkham. Prince Edward, being a hothead and chasing them all the way out to Barkham, away from the town, was one of the reasons the king's men lost. Because and they were mounted knights. And then the other two sets came into the town and were met by the king's army and Richard of Alameyn's army on sort of the hills around us, really, because where we are now would have been outside the town.
And it was a pretty bloody war.
It was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. It's hard to imagine. Lewes is a little place, and on the hills around Lewes, where most of the fighting was, you know, there were tens of thousands of people trying to kill each other. And it was hand-to-hand close combat. And you didn't often die of wounds on the battlefield immediately. You were usually whacked with a broadsword and you would die of internal bleeding, or you would, have limbs severed and die slow death, or you would die death from infection, etc.
So there you go. Not quite one man, one vote, but some slight recognition that the divine right of kings isn't exactly what the Almighty had in mind.
A spark of democracy was ignited, and it happened in Lewes.
As usual, this is thirsty work, and I need to take a break. In fact, have a tipple, or perhaps go to the loos. Don't leave me, there's more blood and gore to come. Oh, Lewes, what a place! Mike. Well, now, okay, let's in the 20 minutes leading up to the advent of Liza Page, that formidable character who tells us that we all have got it wrong, and that there are things that we should look out for. But whenever I'm with Liza, one of the things that happens is I always want a drink. So it is right and proper, I think, that what we do is we go for a drink before we actually get ready for Liza. Let's see. Of course, he said, let's go for a drink, and then can he find a bloody drink now? Here we go. It's here somewhere, and it's not where I thought it was. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. We have no idea what we're doing.
That's good, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's I do this all the time. It becomes bemusing, as they say. Bemusing. It is. No, that's not it either. So I have no idea. There it is. Just the one, Miss Eni. Just the one. She didn't want me to introduce this program at all, but I fought for it, and here I am. Just the one, Miss Eni. Our drinks program that will cover the spirits, the wine, and the beer industries, not only locally, but throughout the world. Oh, joy.
You can give it back to me now.
Come on. Thank you.
In fact, have a tipple.
I need a drink.
Evil spirits are brewed in Lewis.
Here we go again. Pubs in Lewis. I feel like a drink.
Why did Lewis have so many pubs? 63? 63 pubs. Oh my goodness.
I think I will pop in for a quick drink. Lewis, drink as I come.
Meanwhile, where's that pint?
Vroom, vroom. So it turned into a pub.
They sure tippled in Lewis in the past.
Time, gentlemen, please.
One of the beauties of living in this part of the world is we have lots and lots of breweries, macro, micro, and somewhere in between. Oh, and boy, do they turn out an enjoyable product. See what I mean in a moment?
The main ingredients in any beer are water, malted grains, hops, and yeast. Hops are the flowers of the hop plant, which are used for flavoring. The only other uses for hops are in herbal medicine. With these 4 ingredients, you have everything you need to make beer, but the combinations and processes make all the difference. All of these ingredients are boiled together for set amounts of time until the final mixture is filtered and sent to fermentation. Mineral contents in your water source can make a huge difference to the type of beer that you brew.
For our bachelor's level students who are taking a class called The Art and Science of Brewing, take that malted barley, put it into our mill and crack it open to expose that starch inside. We're going to start with around 500 pounds of grain, which gives us about anywhere from 8 to 12 bags of grain. From there it goes up through our auger and into the grist case and turn it into sugar. And that process can take anywhere from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours. Assurance and quality control testing we do, looking at sugar contents, which we call gravity, looking at our yeast under our microscope to try and count yeast cells that are healthy.
The history of the English inns or pubs is fascinating. So the next programme, courtesy of the British Council, takes us through the history of the English inn. And then, just to finish it off, what pubs recently were like just before lockdown. They've suffered a bit since, but this is a story of a long tale. A long tale into a pub and an inn. Join me.
Flanked by the church, the rectory, and the people's homes, stands the inn. In its shade and beneath its roof, men of all degrees and of all opinions meet in comradeship and comfort. Walk through any English market town, and you'll find the inn at the center of its life. On market day, the people from the country around meet there to discuss the trend of prices, their children's health, and their home affairs. It's the same in the villages. When the sun warms the earth, they sit outside and watch the world go by. At the English inn today, There is a hospitality that to the host is just as much a sacred charge as it was to the monks and barons in the Middle Ages, who first gave bread and ale to travellers. Often the only sanctuary in out-of-the-way parts, the monasteries had a lodge open to pilgrims and other wayfarers. Later, these lodges became separate establishments and were eventually run as inns, under such signs as the Pilgrim's Inn. One example of monastic origin is the Bull, which gets its name from the papal bull, or bill, not the animal. These inns of England have seen history happen in their yards. Pilgrims and warriors have trodden their stairways. Here, medieval knights refreshed themselves on their journeys to the Crusades, to fight under the banner of St. George. The inns have preserved much of England's architecture. The early inn has preserved some of the finest carvings and treasures. Like the church, it was a sanctuary. Hence, most of these carvings have a religious meaning.
Over the road from the shops, held up by ship's timbers, is the Gardener's Arms. There seems to be a tradition in Lewes, although no one admits to it, of omitting the epithet pub or tavern. This pub is called by locals simply the Gardener's. And the Gardener's it was. The origins of this pub go back to when it was an ordinary house, owned by a gardener. Often, after work, he would invite other gardeners into his front room for a drink. Eventually, it made sense to formalize the ritual. So, it turned into a pub. The Gardener's is a true pub. Unusual now, it only serves pork pies and sausage rolls. Yet each year it's in the top tier of finalists for Pub of the Year. Stood proudly on the riverbanks. Harvey's Brewery, the key industry of the town. The bloody high street of a tiny town.
You'd think the old man would give up pubs for Lent or something, wouldn't you? Well, think on. He even gets absorbed in how the pubs were in January's time. Luddite.
The Romans started the wine industry in this part of the world, and very fine wine they made indeed. During the First World War, the British government almost killed it because they needed sugar and other things needed to grow vines for the war effort. And I'm happy to say that vineyards now are flourishing, and I've visited a lot of them. I hope that over the next few weeks you'll come with me.
English sparkling wines are beginning to win an enviable reputation across the globe, and that reputation is turning into sales. British supermarket chain Waitrose has reported a 188% increase in sales of English sparkling wine last year, and that trend is expected to continue. The soil and climatic conditions in southern England are remarkably similar to those of the Champagne region in France. So much so that leading French champagne house Taittinger has bought land in Kent and has begun producing English sparkling wine. But the owners of English vineyards are not prepared to take second place. Ridgeview Estate Wines in Ditchling has been producing English sparkling wine since 1994. And recently, the company received the prestigious accolade of having its wine served by the Queen to Chinese Premier Xi Jinping at a state dinner. Ridgeview is a family business which has a strong sense of history when it comes to its products. The vineyard's trademark is Merit, named in honour of Englishman Christopher Merritt. This wine pioneer made a presentation to the Royal Society in London in 1662, explaining the process of making sparkling wines. That was 30 years before the French began producing champagne. Last year, Ridgeview produced a bumper crop and has similar ambitions for this year. The product can be seen at a variety of produce events in the region, notably Brighton and Hove's Food and Drink Fair in May. And the winemaker plans to repeat the success of last year when it introduced its range of sparkling wines to New Yorkers. Want to check out the claims that Ridgeview makes? There are plenty of stockists within the Lewes district. As one might suspect, it's available at Harvey's, but also at Larder in Ditchling, Middle Farm on the road to Eastbourne, and of course the English Wine Centre at Drusilla's Roundabout. These successes have created a rush to develop new vineyards in Sussex. Licence applications last year were up by 40%. It's not just sparkling wines that are gaining a reputation. Still wines have also been around a long time. Both are now beginning to take the French market by storm, as demonstrated by the French purchase of acreage in Kent. The key question now is if growth will mean a larger and more expansive English wine industry, or a homegrown luxury product suitable for big and glittering occasions. For the moment, only time will tell. Tasting a true competitor of French champagne. So next up on Food Glorious Food, a new way to sell wines in Lewes. Symposium has a friendly, laid-back atmosphere with staff who clearly have a passion for wine. Symposium has a limited range of Sussex wines, but what they have is top drawer, and its range of quality grape types is within most budgets. Whether it's the cheese and meat platter, a single malt scotch, crunchy local bread or a glass or two of decent claret, this wine bar has found a unique way to sell its wines. And in today's world of big is better, the Symposium has found its niche.
There we are. And yes, who is to my right? Let her loose, I'm not sure. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. My goodness me. Now, first of all, just let me tell you that it is 9:57, that it's the 23rd of February, 2023. And already we're well into the new year, and just only a moment ago we were worrying about our carol service. Just shows you how quickly the time zips by, doesn't it?
Frighteningly quick.
Absolutely.
You know, I used to feel that time went quickly because of my age, but then I talk to young people and they say time goes quickly too. Have you noticed that?
You shouldn't be feeling that at 50.
I shouldn't, should I? No. One must be realistic.
Right, okay. We will just take a very quick look at what we who we are. It's very important that people know who we are. And here we are back again, ready to dig in for the next 45 minutes or so. Right, now, those of you who have started to follow us on a fairly regular basis will know that each Thursday, Liza, and she's got another program, except that she won't give it to me at the moment. I have no idea why. I have to wag my finger at her. Mind you, I'll be careful she doesn't bite the bloody thing off. But every Thursday morning, we take an alternative look at a viewpoint of what's happening in the world and a different interpretation. And that is Liza's speciality. And just to put you in the picture, that she talks regularly to people associated with David Icke, who has always been the most controversial of characters, but has around him other controversial characters, but who have very fine minds. And it bothers me that much of the establishment will laugh and joke and reject any ideas that come from these fine minds. They may not be right, but then again, they may be. And if we are not prepared to open our minds to all sorts of ideas and thoughts, then we are on a course of destruction. And it is duty bound for people, particularly such as me, who, quote, own a television station, to listen to such views and to make them available to those people who want to not just take one single line. So there you are, Liza. The stage is yours, as it always is on a Thursday morning. And tell us, because I know that you've been working extremely hard this week and reading a lot and viewing a lot and talking to some of your colleagues. So tell us what the hell is going on.
Well, I have virtually been going back to school. Yes. Having been a devoted admirer of David Icke for the last 30 years, read all his books. I haven't been reading him for the last 3 years because I didn't need to. I sort of, thought I knew the lot, so to speak. But I have started going back and reading him again, and oh, for goodness sake, every single thing that man predicted 30 years ago is now coming true today. It really is. And but I want to tell you something. His books are not for the faint-hearted. As I always say, read him if you dare, but don't read him at your peril.
Right, now, give us an example of a prediction that he made 30 years ago that is coming true today.
Well, this New World Order, where they're trying to microchip the world and cotton us on to these little 15-minute cities that they're trying to bring in, the mind control of the brain, all this he predicted 30 years ago. And now it's there. And the WEF and all this evil lot, they're not even denying it. Well, why should we? It's going to happen anyway, whether you like it or not. That is the attitude. Very, very cocky, nasty people. I try to bring this to the attention of people, but, I think mostly people don't want to hear this frightening, terrible stuff. I mean, they want to make their living, go to work, raise their children, celebrate their Christmases, have a pint at the pub on the weekends. I mean, come on, and watch a football match. Now, what is the harm in that,
Well, maybe there's no harm, but I think, to be quite honest with you, at the very, very least, and I say at the very, very least, is explanations have got to start to come from government, charities, quangos, the civil service, and so on. Because we every time that we turn around now, we've got a disaster. Is the economy, inflation, and now we can't get a bloody tomato. I mean, all these things are piling up and seem to be to indicate that something is, excuse me if I badly misquote Shakespeare, a badly rotten state of Denmark.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. And it will get worse, believe me, because they want to make us so desperate that we will accept this no money, but this digital payment. This is what it is all about. And people will rise up and they would do this and that, and then would take your money away from you. So what are you going to do? And this digital payment, a point system, if you say one word out of place or even jaywalk, you will lose some points. Until eventually, if you have any spirit at all, you will have no points at all, where you will be unable to go into a shop to buy food or buy anything. So what do you do? I know, bartering. No, because they will make that illegal too.
Well,
where you will not even be allowed to grow a bunch of mint on your kitchen windowsill. This is how cruel and evil these people are, because all their aim is to reduce the population.
all right. Now, you and the other people whom I have a great deal of respect for their minds, do you not ever consider the possibility that the situation that we find ourselves in is simply a combination of circumstances that came together in the perfect storm, that it wasn't manufactured at all?
No. Anyone who has a brain knows that this has been planned for a long, long time. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Then,
indeed. Oh, and last week, you and I spoke about an old series with Patrick.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Called The Prisoner. You remember?
Patrick McGowan. Yes.
Yes, lovely, good-looking man, and a very underrated actor too, I think. Anyway, I got a few of these DVDs, and these were made in, I think it was 1988. And what it is, it's about a sophisticated scientist who has a great brain, good mind. He gets stuck on this very, very nice island, lots of sunshine, accommodation, a little shop, everything you really need, a little bit like a 15-minute city, you know? The only thing is, he is never, ever allowed to leave. And every time he tries to escape, he thinks he's done it, a face will come up and say, "Oh, can we escort you back?" You know?
Okay.
This, and then the mind control on this little island is so incredibly advanced the way it is today. Absolutely, where they can control the brain. He wants to leave, so they bring on a very pretty girl who they manufacture her brain to think that she is very much in love with him. So if she's in love with him, well, then she doesn't want him to leave, does she? So every time she senses he's trying to escape, she informs the authorities so that he has to escape.
Right.
Terribly, terribly clever. And you would think, any thinking person would say, yes, but that wouldn't happen in my lifetime.
Now,
it was happening then.
Yeah, I find it's very fascinating that this series was made, there is a dichotomy for me. You tell me that it was made by Lou Grade.
Yes.
Sir Lou Grade.
Sir Lou
In
Grade.
fact, he became Lord Grade, as I
Yes.
heard. Yes, he did. His services to television. And we all forget about these things if you don't bother with history. But Lou Grade was one of the greats who started to develop television way back in the 1950s and the 1960s. And to some extent the 1970s.
But before that, he was a theatrical agent. He was like a vaudevillian, where he booked acts.
Right.
An agent, and then like there was the Hippodrome and these theatres where people learnt their trades, and then if you could get on that circuit, you made a very, very good living.
Exactly. And that's what I really want to ask you about, is because the Prisoner is prescient. It really outlines things, as I often say, I don't see things as they are, as other men see them, but things as they could be. Now here, Lou Grade shows and develops a series which for its day had many people puzzled. And you actually are pointing out a part of the message that it had. But I didn't know Lou Grade terribly well, but I used to travel on the train with him. And he was a corpulent cigar. And his famous phrase was, commercial television, a license to print money. And by God, the people who were involved in it in those days knew how to print money. They made a fortune out of television.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I had one who was a friend and a colleague who died about 2 years ago, and yeah, he made a pile all right. But
good for him.
Yes, but why would somebody like Lou Grade make a series like The Prisoner, which really, I think you're right, it was a sort of a warning about what was going to happen.
Yes.
Wasn't his nature.
No. Maybe he was trying to do a bit of good. Sometimes, people have consciences and they say, I've made a lot of money. I've done very well. Now I'd like to try and put something back in. I don't know, but I'm sure I still have faith in certain parts of the human nature. But before The Prisoner came out, Frank Sinatra made a film called The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, yes. Angela Lansbury is my favorite actress.
They've also made they've also made a remake.
Yeah, I don't know whether I want to remake it.
And no, I always liked the original version. They never seem to do it justice when they remake these things. It's a bit sad. Anyway, Sinatra made this particular film, Manchurian Candidate, about someone in the military who was brainwashed into doing everything his mother told him to do. His mother was a very ambitious socialite and was determined that her son would become the next president of the United States. And takes me too long to explain the whole thing, but this poor man was brainwashed. And he was supposed to kill somebody. And the mother would call him certain times of night and said, just called to say good night, my dear, and would give him certain passwords that enter into the subconscious. Frank Sinatra was heavily involved in this film, and he wanted to get it released and was having grave difficulty. So he went to Kennedy, as Prime Minister then, and Kennedy pulled some strings to get it released. But that was sort of the beginning of people being aware that this brainwashing that, is very, very effective. And now it's commonplace. I think people understand that now.
Now that you've raised something that's very, very interesting. I mean, first of all, let me tell you if you can see the original version of the Manchurian Candidate, it scares the hell out of you.
Yes,
And it really does. It's extremely well made. It's very frightening, and the theme, as you said, it shows all about brainwashing and how that can be implanted and so on over a period of years. But did you know, and I'm very interested because I did not know, that there was some difficulty in getting it released, because I actually saw it before it was actually released in the cinemas.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. In 1960, I think it was.
Wow.
When I was just a young spud. Take a look. I was a young spud.
You're a little baby man, weren't you?
But I was not aware of that. What I was aware of is that he tried very hard and succeeded. You could not see the Manchurian Candidate after President Kennedy was shot, because Sinatra believed that this movie, a powerful movie, actually triggered the assassination of Kennedy.
Well,
and he wanted it pulled, so it didn't actually trigger anymore.
Oh, maybe that.
Yeah, no, so it's interesting, isn't it?
Yes,
First of all, he wanted
interesting.
it desperately to, and quite rightly, a powerful movie. But then a conscience sets in that this powerful movie has created that. Yeah.
But now this brainwashing is done so much in the military. So very, very, very dangerously so. And there's thought that these kids that go in and shoot up schools and that in America and all that, so we've got to ban guns because using that as an excuse. I mean, there is thought that these children are brainwashed to go and do this particular sort of thing. And it's been done with several other assassins too, because when they wake up and they're taken into custody, they haven't got the faintest idea what they've done. It's a little bit dodgy. To say
No, I mean that I could well believe if in fact there is the what do you call them, the third world? No, not third world. The
Illuminati.
Yes, the Illuminati. If there is an Illuminati steering the whole process, then that would make a good deal of sense. Let me just take you now to other things because we need to follow on. I mean, yours is almost a serial. You almost, like each week,
Yes.
You add on something new.
Yes.
And once you've implanted something new in our minds, implanted, did you notice I use that word?
Yes.
You've implanted something in our minds, is you have to keep on reminding us, A, what they are, what they're about, and B, how they've progressed, what's happened to change in the past week since you were here last time.
Yes.
And one of the things that you keep on studying carefully and watch progress is what you call is the 5-minute cities.
Yes, these 15-minute cities.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
They are trying them out in Britain to see if we will stand for it or not. And the first one, as I mentioned last week, was Oxford. They're trying it there. And these 15-minute cities, I'll explain again for those who didn't catch me before. They want to carve up Oxford, which they've done, divide it up so that it's within a 15-minute radius of everyone. You can walk or you can ride a bike. But if you're disabled or you need assistance, well, then there is nothing. So that's tough. And you are only allowed out 100 hours a year. And you have to register your car, if you have one, to say where you're going, how long you're going to be, and then you are allowed to leave. Now, the other ruling that they have there, it's vague, very sort of vague. They might allow carers out who have to go, to another village or something like that, and maybe 4 other professions, but mainly they want people to work from home the way we did during lockdown.
Right.
And well, it's all right. 15 minutes, you'll have your doctor there, you'll have your hairdresser, you'll have a little shop, and that's all you need. What else do you need? Suppose I want to go and visit someone, you know, and it's sort of in Ringmore, or somewhere like that. Well, that off your hour, you know, you're only allowed out for an hour. And how you will get there, I don't know, because the idea is, they said this is to help climate change. Yeah, that's a good old chestnut. Because then there won't be so many cars on the road. Then they will have to detour all the way around Oxford to get in. It's a big deal. And there was a very large demonstration this Saturday gone by of people. It was totally peaceful, but a lot of people, you know, with their banners. You see, because all these cities are, and they plan them all over England, in fact, all over Europe and in America too. This is the idea worldwide. It's taking away people's freedom again and again and again. And suddenly, the English, good old English public are rising up the way I have been hoping for the last several years now. It was slow for the penny to drop, but they're suddenly saying, no, something's not right here. No. And they made an incredibly good impression. Also, there was a little girl that stood up, 12 years of age, and brilliant. I'm going to have that video for you next week, I promise, that clip. And made a gorgeous little speech. She was brilliant. But back to the whole thing, this will now spread, and they will have difficulty doing this. I can't say it won't happen. Of course I can't. These people are very, very wealthy and very, very protected, well connected, and they've been planning it for so long. So they must have planned for uprisings. But regarding if the crowd should become disruptive, there are a couple little people that always put in there to make, you know, the other people look bad. And these people are paid to do just that. Anyway, it went incredibly well. But these people, I'm sure they have taken all this into consideration. So they'll come up with something else which we have to be prepared to knock on the head to. But the spirit of the British people, oh God, it makes me so proud to be English. I've traveled all over the world, lived in quite a few different countries, but I'm quintessentially an English woman, and I happen to love Britain. I really do. There's certain aspects of it that, I'm sorry, we still do here that they don't do in other countries.
Now, I'm in the business of presenting facts and letting people make up their own minds. You, on the contrary, take these facts and come to some conclusions. However, what is your comment on the fact that part of this is already happening in Lewis?
What, these 15-minute cities, you
Yes.
mean? Are they happening here?
Well, let me, I mean, I've never...
It wouldn't surprise me,
Yeah.
because it would be very, very easy
Yeah.
for them to do this thing. And I will tell you a story that happened to me about 4 years ago, but it's not for this program. It would, and certain aspects, I looked and I thought, oh, are they going to close down this place? I had a little look, you know. But if it should happen here, well, it's primarily an old person's town. It would be very easy for them to do it unless we rose up and said no.
Well, as I say,
And that's
I'm
what
not...
these people are doing.
Yeah.
There was no violence. They just said, no, we're not having it.
I'm not drawing any conclusions. This is up to you. But if you own a car in Lewis,
Yes.
and you live around the corner, as I did, you have a little sticker that says you're in Zone B, let's say, or Zone D, or whatever it is, and you can park your car in that zone, right? If you actually, then the town is split up into zones for people. Presumably, you get a zone that is close to your home, right? But if I wanted to go and visit somebody who is over, let's say, near the Elephant and Castle, I couldn't park.
No.
Because my free parking does not extend. It only is in the zone that I'm in. So if I want to go and visit a friend,
can't do it.
I got to walk, or I've got to pay a huge amount of money for parking.
Yes, but they haven't even mentioned in this thing if you are going to be allowed to call a taxi. I think they're doing away with that too.
Well, you know better than I about these things, but
the whole idea is nothing to do with climate change or anything like that at all. Is to control, so that they can close the town down in 3 minutes, totally.
Well, once again, I only just I mean, what I like about your arguments, Liza, whether I go along with them or not is quite beside the point. I like your arguments because it starts my thinking about, my God, is in fact some of the decisions that have been made because of these 15-minute towns. Now, apart from the parking, there was a conscious decision when I first came to Lewes. When I first came to Lewes, this high street had got a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, a fishmonger. You got all sorts of things.
Yes,
there was a conscious decision to take them all the way from this high street here and to put them down in Cliff, centralize them in Cliff. There is a tiny little shop called Beckworth's along here that I can get an apple.
Yes.
I can't anywhere else in the town.
No.
And in theory, Cliff is not in Lewes.
No.
Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
it was a separate area. So basically, the sort of thing you're talking about has been put into progress. Not in a huge way. But
I don't drive a car, so I'm not aware of what you're telling me. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, there is one other thing that I hadn't thought about until whether that fits into this pattern is we ain't governed from Lewes anymore.
No.
We are governed from Eastbourne.
Yeah.
Lewes District Council is in Eastbourne.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So bit by bit, the sort of thing that you're talking about is local authority and so on and so forth is being taken away.
Yes.
Yeah. How very interesting. I hadn't even thought about those things, but now you've made me think that way. Well, I mean, think about the possibilities. Yeah, it's okay, right. I mean, one of the things I think you would accept is that some of your critics would say you can take all sorts of facts and figures and make them fit any particular story. But nonetheless, if they do fit, they've got to be taken into consideration and taken seriously. Right, okay. Now, you had your nose to the grindstone this last week.
Yes.
I mean, God, I call you at midnight, and I can't get an answer because you're busy working. Yeah. Oh yeah. I know that you're awake because I do the answer phone at midnight. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I get the reply. Hello, I was busy while you.
Well, I do take it very, very seriously because of the education that I've had through David Icke's books and the way I am so impressed with the man's work and the way everything is, all the dots are joining up the way he said it would. But as I say, I have had my nose back in his books for a refresher course. It keeps me sharp. There's a little thing here. Oh, this is terribly, terribly important, Keith. There's a lot of things on the internet where they have these bills that they're trying to pass, and they slip them in so that you don't notice them.
Ah, right. You know who introduced that, don't you? Tony Blair.
Yes, and
the spin doctor, the
yes.
good old spin doctors.
And it's always, we've only got until the beginning of March. You know, it puts people in this terrible, my God, I've got to sign this, you know, and it is so complicated, and there are so many loopholes that you tear it up in desperation. You really would. But anyway, here we go. They are about to give our sovereignty to the WHO, the World Health Organization, which is totally affiliated with the WEF.
Which is the World Economic Forum.
Forum, yes. This bill will give, and it will go to, what's his name? The guy in America. President.
Oh, Biden.
Joe
Biden.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So Biden's trying to get this passed. And it will give them, the World Health Organization, total carte blanche to do absolutely anything they want to do. This bill will give them total freedom over humanity. It will say that vaccines must be mandatory, and we can break your door down and tie you down to give it, and we have authority to do that. We can close down these cities anytime we want for as long as we want, and unlimited other things. We will have no rights whatsoever.
Right. Okay. Now I need to ask you that as we go along. The things that I wouldn't quite understand is the United States is governed by a constitution, rather famous constitution, because it's this simple 7-point plan laid out by the founding fathers 250 years ago or 300 years ago. Now that is the governing law. That is the rule of law in the United States. Are you saying that the World Health Organization will be able to override that constitution?
Yes, I am, because they can do anything they want.
Wow.
We are allowing them to do anything they want. Big difference.
Yes, but I mean, ultimately, we use the phrase "rule of law" a great deal, and rule of law is the constitution of any given country to be able to govern. If in fact Biden is working towards taking away the right of the American people through their constitution to govern, then that's pretty serious stuff.
Very, very serious, Keith. Very, very serious indeed. But that's what these guys are trying to do. Yeah, and it's always quick. You know, we've only got this amount of time. Whether you sign the forms or whether you don't, they're going to do it. As they have. Well, they do electronic gates and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, now, just before we move on, I would see that as, I mean, I have spent a good deal of my life, no, not a good deal, but a proportion of my life, working in places like the Balkans and the Baltics and the Caucasus and so on and so forth, where, in fact, a rule of law was interpreted in a very strange way. And now we spent a lot of money trying to institute rule of law in these areas. But what you're saying is that now in our own societies, that rule of law is going to be swept out of the window, and that the WHO will become an all-powerful organization that can do what the hell it likes.
Yes, because these people are hell-bent on controlling the world. Yes.
Now, I would like you, if I can ask you, to keep an eye on those events. I mean, I've spent I spent a lot of time and effort, making sure that rule of law was applied in some of these countries. And if, in fact, it's just going to be swept out through the stroke of a pen, then I find that alarming.
Terrifying.
So will you make sure that each week when you come back, if you tell us the latest news, the latest steps forward or backwards or whatever on this?
Well, I will do my best. I am not a whiz on the computer, and some of these rules are very, very deeply buried. But I will do my level best.
Yes. Well,
because this is a passion
yeah.
with me, because as I said before, I don't have that much longer to live, and neither do you. We are vintage people. And another thing is that
lovely way to put it. I'm a vintage person.
Oh,
I like that. I certainly wear vintage clothes.
Well, we're good wine. We improve with age. But these people are so heavily into eugenics, depopulating the world. They're way over the top, and it's frightening. They're out of control. That's what it boils down to. Oh dear. Now I've got a little thing here. Britain is the first to rebel against the 15-minute cities. As I've said, Bath and Canterbury are scheduled to close down.
Right. The next one's
after Oxford.
Right.
Yes. So there's going to be strong demonstrations there. There's a piece here. The company that builds prisons also builds schools. 250 large corporations in Britain today are owned by the Chinese. But there are many businesses where China is the main shareholder. Those are not included in the statistic of the Chinese-owned businesses.
All right. Now, where are who took these statistics?
I'm sorry?
Where did these statistics come from? Who took this survey?
Internet. The internet.
Right. I mean, you didn't do it, did you?
Yes.
Go through the list of Chinese-owned companies?
Yeah.
You did?
Oh. What do you think I'm up till 3 in the morning?
Yeah. Jesus, yeah. That's impressive. Give me the figures again.
See, I'm a good little servant to you, aren't I?
Oh, my goodness me. I
right
bring
now,
out the whip.
Now, here's a very nice one. A very nice one, but a very, very...
No, before you go on to the nice one, give me those statistics again, because you've done your homework. And, when you put out statistics, it's like a telephone number on television. Nobody has ever got a pencil in it. Nobody ever pays it, and so they're forgotten. So I'd like you to repeat those statistics. Number of Chinese companies?
250 large corporations in Britain today are owned by the Chinese.
Right.
There are many businesses where China is the main shareholder. These are not included in the statistics of Chinese ownership.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. Thank you. I think those statistics are important, and if you're interested in what we're saying on this program, that's one that you should make a note of. Right.
Good morning.
Okay. Oh, good morning, my dear. How are you? Lovely to see you. Lean in. Let them see you, Lena.
Yeah.
Come on, darling. Lean in. Come on.
Who's this?
There you go. There's Lena, who looks after Eliza and myself. She brings us breakfast, and she and her husband are lovely company, and we join them normally after the program for a glass of wine and a nice chat.
Yeah. You not been here? You okay? Because we come Monday.
On Monday, yeah. No, I wasn't here. Something took me away. Nobody sawed my leg off.
You now okay? Yeah.
I'm now okay. Yeah.
Good. You lady very classy, beautiful. I like classy. Very classy lady.
Thank you for coming in to see us, darling. Thank you.
We have the lovely characters in this hotel, which Lena is one of the leading ones.
Yeah, but we are the characters too, don't forget.
I'm just an ordinary little chap.
No, I see a lot of the characters in Lewis, lovely people, but they've died off. And now I thought, now I have become one of the characters of the town.
Oh,
Yes, this is very, very important.
Yeah, okay, right.
You've got to get this in. Tony Blair and William Hague have joined the Davos lot.
Which
WEF.
Oh, right.
Yes. And Tony Blair is dying to get Klaus Schwab's job because Klaus is getting ancient now. So it's time he passed down that job, I'm sure. And Tony Blair is champing at the bit to get it. Right. Now then, Tony has stood up in Parliament. Sir Tony was today pushing a creepy plan for every Briton to be issued with a digital ID as part of reshaping a state around technology. He's been pushing that for so many years now. You know, this digital ID. Oh, was he ahead of his time? However, critics hit back at his demands, with ex-Tory chairman Sir Jake Berry branding digital ID as a creepy state plan to track you from cradle to death, which of course it is.
Cradle to grave.
Yes. I mean, you know, it's the microchip. That's what he's trying to bring in, of course. Another little tidbit here I came across. A Belgian university is experimenting with how many insects they can put in a cake without people noticing. Consumers can't taste it when a quarter of milk butter has been replaced by insect fat. We've got that to look forward to.
Wow. Explain that a bit.
Yes, well, you know, they want us to live on bugs. You know, they don't.
We all eat bugs.
Yes, you will eat bugs and like them. And they're talking about making bug cakes and all this. And this university wants to.
Australian Aboriginals do, don't they?
Oh, yes, but I'm not an Aboriginal.
No, you're certainly not.
You know, I don't eat a great deal of meat. I don't because it has too many chemicals in it. I'm not a vegetarian because I'm sorry, I do eat fish. Probably shouldn't, but I do. But you know, a lot of people do eat meat, and we have no right to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't eat meat anymore. You have to eat bugs. Because, you know, we've done the farmers out of business, and we say, all right, you don't want animals, then you can grow food. Oh, no, we don't want to grow any food. So they've taken away the stuff that grows it and all that. And this is happening all over Europe, darling. Holland, look what they've done to Holland. I mean, and then, of course, you see, you have the people who stand up against them. But they bring in the military, which is highly trained to deal with demonstrators. And if they've got the trucks like those magnificent truckers up in Canada, God bless them, who hung out for quite a long time, they were brilliant. And then they say, well, we'll take away your money. Okay? And then, of course, you know, if there's a point system, we'll take away your point business. And you're starved to death, my dear. It's very simple. Very, very simple. Yes. And if that's not taking away our human rights, then I'm sorry, I don't know what is.
Yes. I mean, I totally accept. And as I said to you, I'm the neutral, if you like. I let people express their points of view, and then those people out there are the ultimate judges of you. Not me. I mean, I could sit here and say I agree with you or don't agree with you or whatever. The point is really, those are the people that need to be acted as judges, and you put your case, much like a court of law. and you put it you put it very well. You're very articulate in your arguments. Indeed, the people must make up their own minds, but they can't make up their minds unless they know all the facts.
No, they can't. And as for this digital ID stuff, they are already, it's Tesco's, I think, making it where all the food is behind, like in cupboards, and then you look and see what food is in there, and then you pull the drawer, the glass back, you reach in and you take your food. With the digital ID, it's facial recognition. And if you've been to that cupboard too many times, you won't be able to open the door. And that's done by facial recognition.
Already.
Because they'll say, they will say, if a person is too fat and you're taking something fat out of the cupboard, no, that's not good for you. You had that once this week, so you can't have it again.
No.
I mean, this is how strict it is and maniacal it is going to become.
Incidentally, just to so we don't get too much doom and gloom, there's apparently, I haven't seen it, but there's a cartoon in one of the newspapers this morning. Is because of this shortage of vegetables and so on. It shows a butcher offering to people as, how would you like a meat burger? I must say, Liza, the give and take of this debate is quite fascinating to me. I said to you on the phone when we were having a conversation yesterday that I don't go along with absolutely everything that you say, but it doesn't matter what I believe or don't believe. Is I act as the arbiter. I give everybody a chance to put their point of view, and I think that there are some things that you actually have raised. Is where I've said to somebody, well, would you like to come on and say, and they've declined.
I've been mostly because they're frightened.
Well,
people are too frightened to come on here and do what I do.
So the sort of things that you raise for us to take a look at and debate, and I would encourage those of you out there who watch this program and who have particular specific points of view, is do get in touch with us. Perfectly happy for you to come on and express them.
Oh, I wish you would, please.
Well,
please, I beg of you.
Well, no, it is this. Look, I make people are lazy, right? Or people are self-satisfied. I have had a standing invitation to the traders on this high street who are always crying the blues. Oh dear, the high street's dead. Oh dear. I said, hey, come on to our television. We don't have huge audiences, but they're a specific audience to Lewis, right?
Exactly.
Tell us what you do and so on. Say, well, any deals that you've got and so on. How many people have taken us up on it?
Not one.
One.
You've been trying long enough. Yeah.
And so I get people really either don't care or too damn lazy. That's the point. If you don't get involved in the debate about our society, you can't make a difference. You can't make a change.
Keith, people are frightened. I'm sorry, they are frightened.
Well,
because this is a petrifying situation that they're bringing in.
You ain't going to alter it if you sit at home on your backside.
No, it isn't. I'm sorry, because I can't make a difference. Keith can't make a difference, but all of us together can make a difference.
Well,
and there's a shining example of the difference that those people made on Saturday.
Now, remind us again what happened on Saturday.
Well, a hell of a lot of people went to Oxford and said, no, we're not having these 15-minute cities.
Well, what did they do when they got to Oxford?
Well, they had their banners, you're taking away our liberties, or we disagree with this. It was civilized.
Right.
There was a few mischief makers that are paid to come in and stir up some trouble, but it was on a very small basis.
Any estimate
small.
on the numbers of people?
I don't know, but it was an incredibly good crowd.
Right.
Incredibly good crowd. But I knew it was coming, that there would be a demonstration in Oxford some weeks back, but I couldn't find any advertising on it.
Oh.
And then David Icke put it on, I think it was 2 days before. Oh no, and I missed it.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, young Max, he badly wanted to go. And I couldn't say, come on, get your tail there. But no, I just couldn't find it. I'm sure they had their reasons for not publicizing it the way they normally do with these things. But no, that it was very gratifying to see that people are waking up. Once the eye wakes up, it doesn't close.
Now we've been we as you say, doesn't time go quickly when you're having fun? We met at we went a little bit early on the air, about 2 minutes to 10, and it's now, believe it or not, it is 7 minutes. It's 10:49. So it's 10 minutes, 11 minutes just before the time that we sort of cut ourselves off. So I think that is any other points that you wish to make?
Well, as usual, I get outside. Oh, hell, why didn't I say that? That's sod's law, isn't it? But right now, I think I've put so much out there. It takes a lot of digestion, what I've been saying today, Keith. So I think I will leave it at that. And as you say, let people chew it over and think about things.
Okay, right. Now, what's your diary for the coming week? What trouble are you going to get up to other than, I expect, working your little bottom off, researching the material that you're interested in?
Well, there's so much that I want to do, and I've got a stack of books which I'm dying to read. I really am, but I'm so occupied with what I'm doing with this business, and as it changes every day, I have to keep up on top of these things. So I'm totally preoccupied with this WEF and world affairs in general. Oh, there's one little thing here. Putin has confirmed that Chinese leader Ping Pong will visit Moscow in the coming months. I'm sure they'll have the tea ready, won't they?
Chinese tea.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Liza, for another scintillating hour.
No, thank you so much, Keith, for letting me on here to, try to inform people.
Well, I mean, I think it's important.
Thank you very much.
I think the work that you do is important. I know that I would have friends who would say, Keith, you're mad. And my response always is, if we don't open up our minds, if we don't consider absolutely every possibility, then what we'll do is we sure as hell will make a direct contribution to what's that phrase? Going to hell in a taste race cart or go
well,
or whatever.
Going
Anyway.
to heaven, I should think. You can leave it at that. I mean, and at our age, we're waiting for the chop definitely as these people get in.
Okay, so that's it for this morning. But I just do want to play you again our blog because I want you to get used to the fact that a couple of these will be coming along each week, we're starting off with the question of let's see. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment. I think that's the one. No. The new series, not series, but the new way of presenting some of our stuff. Some of it's serious. I mean, I haven't dared suggest to Liza that she some of her programs might fit into the 10-minute vlogs series. However, hers would be ideal for. It doesn't take away from the fact that the longer versions can oh, I'm will not be taken off. It's not instead of and or this is a new way of showing some important stuff, and why I cannot find these things, I have no idea at all. I am completely stupid in trying to find my way around this system because I'm a broadcaster. I'm not a technician, and people outside must say, "For God's sake, look at him farting around again." Indeed, and I don't blame them for saying that.
But you have a lot to do, and you're here all by yourself.
Yeah, but you would think that I would learn a little bit. I tend not to, and we should be taken to places that, in fact, don't happen, and I have no idea why not. Here we go. I think this is. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. It was. It's we should have our vlogs here, and they never are where I'm supposed to have them, and I have no idea why. I find it very frustrating, and it's silly.
Why don't you just say goodbye?
Yeah, I think I should say goodbye, but I am quite anxious for people to know about this. Here we go, got it. About this this new little 5-minute programs, if you like, but they are making the point of some of the things that we like doing on here: history, travel, information, news, and so on. So.
Success.
In the last episode, I spoke of a battle between the king and some of his barons. The king, Henry III, held the castle. Now, as you can see, the castle pokes up into the sky quite a bit. The Motter is a man-made hill. and as you can see, a few hours of overtime were put in to build this pile of dirt. From the top, you can see in every direction for miles. Almost impossible to creep up without being noticed. And there was a moat to cross as well. But it's called Castle Ditch Lane, the name reflecting its purpose all those years ago. The king, rather unsportingly, had more men on his side than the barons. But it seems he fell asleep at the switch, and on that meadow over there, Simon de Montfort drew up his troops and joined battle. Fighting was fierce. After all, they'd all been on their own tilting greens, preparing for such a showdown as this. The battle was short and sharp, and the barons put the royal troops to flight. And they showed no mercy. The priory had been used as a staging post by the king's men, and they now took refuge there. It's little wonder the tilting grounds became bowling greens, because despite all that training, the king's men panicked. Screams of terror from both monks and soldiers echoed around the priory. As burning arrows thudded into thatched roofs, setting the priory buildings afire, fighting spilled over to here, our beloved but bloody High Street. Soldiers were either massacred or crushed to death as they tried to get across the bridge over the River Ouse. For the king, it was a complete disaster.
De Montfort, he split his armies up on the hills behind us in the chalk downs. He split his army into three forward not flanks, but bunches of men, you know, groups. And they would have been around 1,500 people in them. So a lot of people. So he had 1,500 people. Then he kept men back for himself. So his left flank went off to Barkham and met Prince Edward, and they went off to Barkham. Prince Edward, being a hothead and chasing them all the way out to Barkham, away from the town, was one of the reasons the king's men lost. Because and they were mounted knights. And then the other two sets came into the town and were met by the king's army and Richard of Alamaine's army on sort of the hills around us, really, because where we are now would have been outside the town.
And it was a pretty bloody war.
It was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. It's hard to imagine. Lewes is a little place, and on the hills around Lewes, where most of the fighting was, you know, there were tens of thousands of people trying to kill each other. And it was hand-to-hand close combat. And you didn't often die of wounds on the battlefield immediately. You were usually whacked with a broadsword and you would die of internal bleeding, or you would, have limbs severed and die slow death, or you would die death from infection, etc.
So there you go. Not quite one man, one vote, but some slight recognition that the divine right of kings isn't exactly what the Almighty had in mind.
A spark of democracy was ignited, and it happened in Lewes.
As usual, this is thirsty work, and I need to take a break. In fact, have a tipple, or perhaps go to the loos. Don't leave me, there's more blood and gore to come. Oh, Lewes, what a place!
There we are. We end on where democracy began, and the programme today is the threat that democracy is under. Liza, thank you for being with me. Look forward to having you there here next
you,
week.
Keith. Thank you.
Okie dokie dokie dokie. Toodle pip.